Hello beautiful people, and welcome to your another hybrid of an astrological video, which seems to be my new expression, at least for the time being. And in this one we're going to be predominantly focusing on the upcoming Sagittarius New Moon, which will be taking place on Saturday, and this in fact will be the final lunation for this calendar year 2025. So we are going to look at what's going to be happening with that. As you can see my face, we're not going to be looking at the chart, and I have some thoughts about that, but I probably will be share more about that in the upcoming videos. And also I wanted to let you know that I am preparing two videos with my husband Aaron beyond replication. One will be kind of like a culmination of 2025, like kind of sharing how the energy showed up for us and stuff. So if you're interested, you can tune in. And also 2026, where Aaron and I will be discussing our thoughts about the upcoming energies for 2026. So this is something to look forward to before the end of the year. I don't know what other videos I might or might not record, and then of course I will try to record video for the 1/1 portal. I'll try. Let's see how it all works out. And also stay tuned for my Christmas offering, which will be introduced on the solstice on December 21st, because we have all of this coming up in this upcoming week, which we are beginning with Moon in the sign of Scorpio and Mars moving into the sign of Capricorn, which is the sign of his exaltation. I'm not going to do things how I've done before to name all the things, but the main thing is that we are going to be having a lot of squares next week. Let's just face it. There will be squares to the Saturn, squares to the Neptune, Mercury will be square in the node, Jupiter will be square in Chiron. There is a lot of stuff going on, and all of this is present for this upcoming lunation, which, as I mentioned, is this Sagittarius New Moon, the final lunation for 2025. And this is resetting the cycle that began last year when we had the last New Moon in Sagittarius, and that actually took place on December 1st. For some people who live in Pacific Coast and stuff, it actually might have even been November 30th. But I was at the time already in Mexico, and already here it was December 1st, 2024. And that's when we seeded this energy. That was actually the first lunation when Pluto back in the sign of Aquarius, because the full moon in Taurus in November was the final lunation, November 2024 this is, that was the final lunation with Pluto in the sign of Capricorn, and this Sagittarius New Moon 2024 was the first lunation with Pluto in the sign of Aquarius. So as of that lunation, we had Pluto continuously and steadily in the sign of Aquarius. So now 1 year later, we know what this energy kind of represents, which means change, and more change, changing of the pattern, but you might not necessarily know where you're going with this energy and what are you changing to, right? We just know we're changing, that which work doesn't work anymore, okay, fine, but what's coming to replace it, who knows? So then we had Sagittarius full moon, which was on June 11th, Sagittarius full moon. Just to mention here, the Sagittarius New Moon was on 9 degrees a year ago, so that was in the first decan, Sagittarius decan. The full moon in Sagittarius was on 20 degrees 39 minutes, so that means third decan of Sagittarius, which is Leo decan. You are all about creation. That was of course already with Saturn in the sign of Aries, Neptune already in the sign of Aries from previous times, and yeah, you know, currently we have everybody back in the old signs, and as of last week we also have Neptune direct now. So all of these energies that we've been tuning into and bringing throughout this 2025 with these new planets, traditional and not so traditional planets in the new signs, all of this energy is now going forward, right? Because we had the retrogrades from Aries back to Pisces in Saturn's and Neptune's case, and Uranus back to the sign of Taurus. Uranus is still retrograde. This will continue until early 2026. So we have a little bit longer with that one, but Saturn, Neptune, obviously from I believe October, Pluto, everybody's direct now. So we have these energies, forward momentum, where these planets are, especially Saturn, Neptune, will be moving back into the anaretic zone of the Pisces 29 degrees. Actually, for Neptune is there because Neptune didn't go past 29 degrees, and then moving back into the anaretic 0 degrees, 0 point of Aries. So this is the reset, and we are heading towards the year of reset, the 2026, the year number 10, 0 and the 1, even though for most people that is the year number 1, but it all is valid, you know, all of these are valid. So it's interesting for me that we are ending this year with Sagittarius New Moon on that 28 degree again, right? We have this pattern going on now, these 28 degree new moons that will be continuous until the Aries New Moon, which will, I believe it was 27 degrees, I believe it will be that one. But until then, all the moons are on 28 degrees since the new moon in Virgo eclipse, which was on 29 degrees. But after that, since the new moon in Libra, all the lunations, all the new moons, not lunations, all the new moons were on 28 degrees. 28 is the number 10, and that's where we head in. So all of these lunations, new moon in Libra, we had new moon in Scorpio, now new moon in Sagittarius, following new moon in Aquarius, and then new moon in Pisces. These are seeding these reset energies. So with the Sagittarius, what is Sagittarius archetype? This is all about expansion. We have Jupiter still retrograde until I believe it's March 10th, if I remember correctly. I know it will be retrograde for the next entire eclipse season. So with Jupiter as the ruler of this Sagittarius new moon being retrograde in the sign of Cancer, so obviously there is the mutual reception, right? Mutual reception between Jupiter and the moon itself, because moon is in a sign ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter is in a sign ruled by moon. There is a lot of potential, right? Potential for expansion. Now, what this will mean for different people depends on what are you choosing, right? We already had the illumination 2 weeks ago with the new full moon in Gemini, squared by the lunar nodes, or squaring the lunar nodes, depends which way you want to look at it. Both are valid. So there is a lot of pressure, right? A lot of pressure for change. And I know plenty of that showing up on my doorstep over here in Mexico, like the past. And this is how I've been experiencing it. Everything that's unresolved from the past, it's been hiding there under the carpet, like, don't need to deal with this anymore, we are different, living in different times now or whatever. Everything that's unresolved is coming up, because obviously, as I already discussed last time, the energy cannot just disappear. The energy needs to be transformed, transformed, transcended. It has to be released. So there are all these situations, circumstances, people bringing back these energies, and we will probably feel that very strongly with this moon, because there are so many squares happening, right? The moon is in a square with Saturn, in a square with Neptune. As I mentioned, also Venus. Venus is also making some squares. I believe she's still in a square with Neptune also. Let's see, Venus. Yeah, Venus is in a square with Saturn. I believe that's happening about the same day, and she's coming into the square with Neptune. Mercury is squaring the lunar nodes on the same day, on the 20th. For some people, actually, the lunation is on the 20th. For me, here is on the 19th in Mexico. So Mercury will be squaring the lunar nodes, resolution of course, the south node, because Mercury is in Sagittarius. Mercury will be coming out of his shadow on Tuesday, so that will be post-shadow Mercury. Post-retrograde shadow. So resolution node being the south node, right? South node Virgo, what are we now putting into practice that we've learned throughout this entire cycle of Sagittarius, since Sagittarius new moon until this new moon, with Pluto now steadily in the sign of Aquarius, currently direct. So we're going forward with this wisdom, with this learned knowledge, applying it into practice. Also, we'll have this Sun-Mars conjunction. I mean, it's already active for this moon. So new moon in Sagittarius is in a conjunction with Mars. Mars is already in a sign of Capricorn. As I mentioned, this is the sign of his exaltation, right? This is what Mars wants to be. Mars wants to be the emperor, right? The conscious creator of the reality, being the full authority, fully in charge of the creation, of the direction of the physical experience, the physical manifestation. Like, I am manifesting my reality. I am not a victim to someone else manifesting my reality. So Mars is in a new phase conjunction with this moon. The exact conjunction between Sun and Mars will actually take place on January 9th, the exact one, but this is already valid, this is already active. So we have tons of squares between the sign of Sagittarius and sign of Pisces, right? Between the new moon and Saturn Neptune, we would say this is a new square, which is the crisis in action. So that is all about pressure to do something, right? With regards to Sagittarius and Jupiter retrograding Cancer, it is about the stories we've been telling ourselves, the stories that have been repeating in our lives over and over and again, and we coming across these mountains, right? These mountains, this Capricorn that these stories are creating, like, I would like to move from where I am to somewhere else, but, right? And then let ego to fill the gap, to fill the story, to give you the story why it is not possible for me. And I feel this is what so many of us, if not everyone, are experiencing currently, where these stories are really resurfacing on such a strong degree, deep degree, where we cannot ignore them anymore. And again, this is just a continuation of the same thing. Like, all the lunations, they just creating a new layer for the energy to express itself, for the expansion of consciousness to continue, for the evolution to take place, right? So as we had with the Gemini full moon, and as I mentioned, I believe that was the first lunation with Saturn in the sign of Aries, right? The new moon in Gemini was the first lunation with Saturn in Aries. We had recently the full moon in Gemini, so that was the illumination of that process. Like, what have we learned, right? What have we learned with Saturn in Aries? Now Saturn is direct. So what are we applying into these last degrees of Pisces as, okay, well, this is not coming with, because it lost the meaning. It no longer holds the same meaning it did 50 years ago, 100 years ago. The foundation is changing, right? We still have this ongoing, Uranus, ongoing trine between Pluto and Uranus. Yeah, like, it's not exact until next year, because Uranus is currently still in the sign of Taurus, but within the degree we still have this ongoing trine between Pluto and Uranus, which is the Leo trine, right? All about creation. We are forced to create, right? Like, in a sense, you can say, well, we are in a revolution. We are in a spiritual revolution, right? Before it was industrial revolutions. Now we are in a spiritual revolution, where we are forced to create a new foundation. We are forced to create from inside out. We are forced to learn to depend on ourselves, because the structures we've been depending on for all this time are becoming unreliable, are becoming unsteady, are becoming like shaky. And also with this, technically the moon, the new moon, is in a trine with Chiron, right? It's in a trine. Actually, Venus is in trine with Chiron. She's not squaring to Chiron. Jupiter is squaring Chiron, right? Yeah, Jupiter is squaring Chiron. Venus and the moon are in trine with Chiron. So this is actually supporting us in going beyond the pain, going beyond the wounding that made us believe that this is all there is, this is all we can experience. Of course, Chiron is retrograde, but is on the 22 degrees of Aries, which is the Sagittarian decan, is the Capricorn degree, right? Capricorn degree. And we have the Saturn. We have the Mars as the ruler of Chiron in the sign of Capricorn, ruled by Saturn. Saturn is now direct. Saturn is squaring this moon, or moon is squaring Saturn, however you want to look at it, and Neptune. So there is a lot of pressure for us to wake up to the realization that things are changing. Things are changing. We can try to put, like, this cotton floss over our eyes, or however you say the expression goes, but it just doesn't change the fact that situations changed, right? Everything is changing in our life, personal life, in the microcosm. That's why it just doesn't feel the same way. Again, I can only speak from my experience, but it's just so weird how world feels different. And is it the world that changed, or is it I that changed? Who's changed, or is it all changing? Like, even the way the time is passing, which is obviously a theme that's been discussed for a long time, especially, since Pluto started playing with Aquarius in 2023, the time is passing very differently. And now with Saturn, Neptune ending their stint in Pisces, soon to be moving back into sign of Aries, Neptune in January, Saturn in February, and then having the conjunction on February 20th on the anaretic 0 degrees of Aries, there is so much going on. There is so much going on that we not yet see or understand, because it's not yet in manifested form. But we know that things are happening. We know things are changing, because that which was is no longer in resonance, is no longer in alignment. So how does this apply to this new moon in Sagittarius with all these squares, right, to Saturn and Neptune? The foundation has to change, the structure has to change, the meaning has to change, and it has to change from this being directed from within. because Mars is how Pluto acts consciously. Mars is in the sign of Capricorn, right? It's in a new phase conjunction with this moon. We know that all this Aryan energy is about stepping into the unknown, like doing something we haven't done before, having to have to just trust the passion, trust the desire, trust the inspiration that this desire is taking me somewhere. It is taking me somewhere where, yes, I haven't been before, but somewhere more fulfilling, somewhere that is more in alignment with my authentic expression, with the innocence of who I once were before I was being told to be someone else, with that. Because with Leo, it is the authentic expression, which is once again something that many of us struggle with because of the conditioning, because of the program, because of the environment, because of the expectations of others, right? Because of the South Node in Libra we had until recently, right? Like until literally a year ago, with the new moon in Sagittarius 2024. South Node was still in the sign of Libra, right? It was just coming into the trine with Pluto, which was very, curious because we had the squares between Pluto and the lunar nodes the year prior. So we've gone a long way, and this is something that needs to be acknowledged and for us to honor in ourselves. We have gone a long way since that new moon in Sagittarius 2024 with nodes in almost the analytic degrees of Aries and Libra. We've gone a long way, and now we are, ready or not, we are just about to step into this new chapter, 2026. Literally 2 weeks, just over 2 weeks. I mean, less than 2 weeks at the time of this lunation. After the lunation, we are stepping into the final cardinal season of this astrological year, right? Cardinal sign Capricorn. Capricorn, we know, is the manifestation of this previous 9 months, right? The gestation period since Aries until the Capricorn, until Sagittarius, the 9 months, and then is the birth, right? Then is the manifestation, the creation. However, with regards to the natural season, especially if you are in the northern hemisphere and experiencing winter right now, everything is asleep, right? Everything is sleeping, is winter, so the earth is resting, but there are so many things happening under the earth, under the ground, the earth is preparing for the new season that will come with the Aries season. This is obviously with regards to the natural season, which, this is like a theory again, because all of these things have been tampered with. So there are a lot of things happening under the surface for each of us, preparing us for this year 2026, which we don't know where we're going. We don't know how it's going to show up. We had no idea what's going to be happening by new moon in Sagittarius 2026 with Saturn, Neptune in Aries, Uranus in the sign of Gemini, and Chiron back in the sign of Aries, because Chiron is moving into Taurus. However, it's going to retrograde back into the Aries again. So we will have, and nodes, of course, we'll have the nodes by the Sagittarius new moon 2026. We'll have the nodes in the sign of Aquarius and Leo. And Pluto and North Node will conjunct in 2027. We also have this exact trine between Pluto and Uranus happening next year. So there are so many things which are involving planets that are these evolutionary planets. They are not personal planets, which we don't really know how this is going to play out, how this is going to manifest. Where is this taking me? Where am I going? Can I control it? Can I choose? Well, we already discern about that with the South Node in Virgo, that not really, because we're not going where we were. And we know with the rebirth of Mercury in springtime, going from Aries to Pisces back to Aries and conjuncting this North Node and Neptune 3 times, Saturn only once for Mercury, 3 times for Venus, and the third conjunction with Neptune was already in the sign of Aries, right, back in spring 2025. This is straight away telling us that the logical mind, the ego mind, can only take us as far, and we already got to the end of that road. We're not going any further with that. I know somebody once used the analogy about the dimension, like imagine it like a 3-story building, you can go from the first floor to the second floor, through the third floor, you can go back and forth. But after the third floor, there is no staircase. To go any higher, it is not going to happen through the material realm, like me walking on the steps, getting to the 5th dimension or the 9th dimension. No, there is a different way of getting there. So this is where we add. This is what we calibrate in ourselves too. And all these stories, all these programs, all these limits, all these limiting belief systems are coming up to be reset, because they are preventing us in stepping onto this new floor of the elevator, stepping onto this new floor, this new dimension, which we obviously are there. We are not constantly stuck in one dimension, we are constantly traveling through the different dimension. And obviously people with their heart open and being able to center themselves and tune to the emotion, to the frequency that they desire, and not being so strongly influenced and impacted by the external and what's happening out there, like being just blown in any direction that the wind blown us into. People who have that, mastered that, it is much easier to spend time in the higher vibrations, in the higher frequencies, in the higher dimensions. So this is what we are all calibrating towards. So with all of these squares that are present with this new moon in Sagittarius, involving the Sagittarius and Pisces archetype, which are about the opportunity for expansion through release. What are we releasing? What are we making a space for? And is this unknown? It is this potential, right? With the Mars in the sign of Capricorn, Mars, how Pluto acts consciously, the upcoming ruler of Saturn and Neptune. Mars is in the sign of Capricorn, ruled by Saturn. Saturn is in Pisces, co-creation with spirit. We're not going to get to the higher dimension relying on the ego mind. The ego can only go where it's been, right? It is the archive of the past. It only knows what it already happened. It doesn't know what hasn't happened yet. So I had, even this morning when I was getting ready for this recording, this realization, understanding, and I shared this before already. There is so much nostalgia connected to these old ways of beings, and having to have to accept and surrender to the fact that this is not going to be recreated forever. It is not going to be around forever. This old way of relating, this old way of experiencing that which we are experiencing at the moment, the world looking the way it is, it will never be the same. It never was the same before, but it won't be the same. 1 year from now, everything will change. You will change, I will change, the world will change. 10 years from now, 20 years from now, nothing is static. Everything is continuously in motion. Even Jupiter, even though in Cancer, right, which is all about the water, right, the intuition, the feeling, how the emotions are flowing through us, and in some cases flooding us, right, because the connection to the North Node, and like I said, Mercury, the ruler of the South Node, is squaring the nodes, pointing to the South Node. And Mercury is in Sagittarius, post-retrograde by the time of this lunation, out of his post-retrograde shadow, ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter ruled by the moon. So it's no longer about being mind-led creation. It is about surrendering to the higher guidance of something that we cannot see, that we don't necessarily understand, and that is very challenging for someone, which is most of us, who experience trauma and feels the desire and the necessity to control, to know, to predict, right? Why do you think everybody's going to predictive astrologers hey, tell me what's going to happen, tell me how is this going to play out, da, right? Because we have the desire to know, so we can get ready for it, right? But there is no prediction anymore. Nothing is going to happen the way it played out before, because we have all these new placements, right, coming up, 2026, Saturn, Neptune, Aries, Uranus in Gemini, Chiron briefly in Taurus, right? Chiron as the bridge between Saturn and Uranus. So nothing's gonna play out exactly as it did when any of these planets were previously in those signs, because everything's changed. Nothing looks exactly the same in the sky. And obviously all the personal planets being involved with all these players, Mars will be the rulers of Saturn and Uranus. Venus will be the ruler of Chiron. Mercury will be the ruler of Gemini, right? Sun will be the ruler of South Node. Saturn and Uranus will be the ruler of North Node. And that's connected to Pluto, because Pluto is in Aquarius, ruled by Uranus, ruled by Mercury. So we can see how everybody will be connected, as they always are, but next year it will be really profound, really felt. So how does it connect to the new moon in Sagittarius? Well, Sagittarius is your new horizon. Sagittarius is your story that's going to take you there. It's take me there, you know. So this is very... And also, it didn't get lost on me last year, and I know I talked about it when the first lunation post-Pluto returning into Aquarius to stay, where the new moon in Sagittarius and full moon in Gemini. And I knew that, you know, that was very significant at the time, because creating a new story, and we can decide what it is with the full moon in Gemini. And now we have full moon in Gemini first, and now we have the Sagittarius new moon second. But either way, this is how we end in this year with. Last year we ended with the Capricorn, right? The Capricorn new moon number 2, because we had the 4 lunations in Capricorn last year. So this year we are ending on this mutable lens. And I am actually pretty sure, isn't it, that we also moving out of this calendar year with moon again in a mutable sign? Let's check that real quick. Yeah, moon in Gemini, indeed. Yes, exactly. I know that there was, I don't remember if it was the last year or the year before when we entered with moon in Virgo. I don't remember now. I don't have the notes, I didn't check, but just for this year alone, we are ending and entering into a 2026 with moon in Gemini. So when you just look at this pattern, the last final 2 lunations for 2025 are immutable lunations. Full moon in Gemini and a new moon in Sagittarius. New moon being the last lunation on the 28 degrees, right? Which is the 10, the year we are entering into. And then we're going to enter into 2026 with moon in Gemini, which is obviously connected to the Uranus, because Uranus is moving to Gemini, the timelines, breaking out of the old timelines, having the opportunity to choose a new timelines. So with this new moon in Sagittarius, you are choosing your story. And yeah, you can say, well, isn't that every year I'm choosing my story? But not every year. Jupiter is in a mutual reception with the moon. You know, this happens only every 12 years when Jupiter is in a Cancer, right? So that's what we've got. So based on what role do I want to play? This is not easy at all. I mean, you know, like this is like me talking to myself over here, because like how easy is for me to like really override my current experience, everything that's happening in my life, and say, oh yeah, let me pretend to be this someone different, to have all of these things and situations playing out this way, even though this is who I am right now and this is what's playing out in my life. And I actually realized that today, leaving a message for my friend, like, you know, saying what's going on in my life right now. And then I literally thought about it, and I was like, oh man, you know, I'm talking about who I wear, and by sharing that continuously, I'm recreating the same identity. Like, oh yeah, this is who I am. So, you know, your present is creating your future. So it's not easy at all, because this is what we programmed to live like. You know, let me tell you all that's going on in my life right now, and most of that I'm not really happy about, so let me tell you all of that too, you know. But that is not going to take us where we want to go and to become who we wish to become, right? So that's why I feel Jupiter retrograde, hello, as the ruler of this moon. That's why I feel that it is really so important to learn to somehow hack our brain and override it, and goes like, hey, you know, you go out there, you go play with something else, you know, like, I don't know, listen to a music, like get, like that's how I meditate, you know, like I have to listen to some music because my brain needs to something to chew on, something to focus on, while, you know, other things can be happening. So that's what I feel like, okay, well, how can I do something? Or, you know, like when you're doing something routine, you know, I know when people drive or washing dishes or folding laundry and stuff, this is usually the times where these kind of things can take place, because the brain is focused on something, right? It's doing something mundane, happen, which we've done a million times before, so you don't have to think about it, just happening. So the brain can be focused on that, the logical mind, but at the same time, that is the opportunity for this imagination to come in and say like, oh, this is what I would like to experience, this is who I would like to become, and like just for 5 seconds, let me have the feeling of what that would feel like. Oh my gosh, that would be so nice. So it becomes familiar, right? But then again, you know, there is all this world happening outside you, around you, and it's telling you this is the story, this is where you're at, this is where you're going, because let me tell you, this is what happened last time. So how can we get from here to somewhere completely different by bypassing the mind, telling us, well, based on the evidence of the past, I'm telling you the high probability for the prediction is this. So that's what I feel like personally, and I know I shared this many times before, like I listen to less and less material, not a good thing necessarily, it's just where I'm at, you know. I listen to very few people, I follow very few people, I don't watch any astrologers, because the only tarot reader I listen to kind of gone off radar. I don't listen to any tarot readers anymore either. It's just like the spirit is literally just forcing this state of, well, you just have to learn to rely on yourself, isn't it? You know, with this Mars in Capricorn, learning to become your own authority, getting ready for Saturn, moving into the side of Aries. And obviously Neptune too, but you know, Neptune is the spirit, so it's like, yeah, my new boss is gonna be my higher self. Well, that's great if I can't see it and feel it and talk to it, but actually we can. But it's not what we were being trained to do, you know. It's not like a small child you were being put down there, like some, you know, channelers share about their personal experience, that as of the age of very little, they were being guided by the spirit, like, hey, listen, this is what you got to do, you have to connect, you have to, you know, be here and be, you know, like connect to the true essence of who you are. Well, how many of us experience that? Most of us were afraid of dark, most of us were afraid of like imaginary stuff, right? So here is where we are being invited to go back to that and say like, okay, well, you know, how about there is nothing to be scared about in darkness, because that's the potential for everything to be created, everything to come from, right? We all came from womb. It's pretty dark there, I believe. I don't know, I don't remember. So that's what I feel, you know. So again, I'm like going in all these different rabbit hole and like, hey, well, but you know, what about this new moon in Sagittarius? But this is all connected, because Sagittarius is just your new direction, is your new chapter, is the new book you want to write, where you are the main character. So how do I want to write this book? And let me tell you how much there is going on in the world, and how can I focus on this, where people are suffering and dying, and there is this and there is that. Well, yeah, of course, you know, like the people in charge who play this role for all of us, you know, these collective contracts, they ought to play their role too, you know, so they're doing what they're meant to be doing in order to make us feel a certain way. And again, what is the polarity, you know, because everything always comes in pairs, the good and the bad, you know, there always have to be a balance in the universe. They cannot do something that doesn't also have a positive impact, just like they did in 2020, you know, creating situation which was very harmful and disastrous in many ways, but it also had a positive impact. Many people awaken. Is the same thing happening. There are situations happening in your personal life, in your neighborhood, in your country, and in the world in itself, that are not necessarily positive, that are not necessarily comfortable, that are not necessarily good. But all of these situations and circumstances also have polarity, that okay, if all of this crap is going on in the world and I can no longer deal with this, then what else can I do? Well, I can focus on my inner world and go into la la land and try to create a different universe, which if I can feel it, if I can imagine it, then it is possible to create it. And this all sounds like a childlike game. However, we are in the age of Aquarius, polarity Leo, right? And what is Leo? Is a child. So that's what I feel, you know. This is how, yes, you know, this moon is trined in Chiron. Chiron is the key between Saturn and Uranus. Uranus is back in Taurus on these final degrees, I believe. What is it? Is it still on 28 or 27 now? Let's see. Uranus, where is Uranus? No, I don't want to delete the image just yet. 28 degrees, perfect. Yes, 28 degrees Taurus. So actually this lunation is happening in exact, perfect, in conjunction with Uranus, right? in conjunction. This is a Virgo in conjunction for Uranus to the moon. So that's all about putting into practice, yeah? Which again takes us back to this Mercury pointing to the south node ruled by Mercury. There must be a different way. Okay, if this thing doesn't work, oh yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about 10 minutes ago. You know, having this realization early on, like when there are so many situations, even in my own personal life, where it's like, how the heck am I going to get out of this problem? How are we going to resolve this problem? You know, these like things piling up on the head. And yeah, then I have to bring myself to present moment and say, hey, listen, right here, right now, in this very moment, I'm okay. Everything is fine. You know, there is a peace and quiet here for once. I'm here alone. You know, I can do whatever I want. I'm not hungry, I'm not thirsty, you know, I have a bed, I can sleep on if I want to, you know, so the right here, right now, everything is fine. Yeah, there are all these other problems, all these challenges, all these situations needed to be resolved, but right here, right now, everything is okay, you know, so that buys me a bit of time, and then in 5 minutes, we can recheck again, you know, right here, right now, how situation, right? So that's what I mean with all of these stories presenting themselves like, yeah, but this is something that's happening, and that's also happening, and that will need to be resolved. Yes, 100%. This is the story for everyone, and it can get absolutely overwhelming because this is not going away by itself, right? Something will have to be that action will have to be taken, right? That's the square to Saturn and Neptune. Action will have to be taken. Crisis in action. But the right here, right now, you know. Let me just be. Let me just decide for myself rather than the world decides for me what the next chapter of my life will be, right? Like I even been playing with my husband with this, like, okay, if I could have my way and I could really, you know, theoretically, I'm the creator of my reality, right? Don't we all believe that? So I'm gonna create my life next year. So let me think about what I want to experience, right? So I want to do this and I want to go here. So if I don't have to worry about the state of the world, state of my bank account and everybody else that is now connected to my life and all the responsibilities and everything else that's connected to that, how do I want to manifest 2026, right? And then the ego will say, but, okay, you know, let's just hold on for a minute with all the buts and stories. What do I want? What do I want to experience in 2026? Leaving enough room for the magic and the surprise and the miracles to turn up, because I don't want to limit it just to that one expression. There might be something better, right? So how do we learn to live life that way, where there are all these buts? Right? And that is the challenge, right? That is that Mercury having to have to be reprogrammed, not being no longer guided just by the logical ego mind, but allowing the higher mind, right? Which is your higher self, your intuition, your heart, you know, to guide me like, okay, I have a desire. I really have a desire, you know, strong desire to revisit this place. I felt good there. I feel, you know, there is still something I am there to experience, an energy to pick up, a blueprint, a codes to be absorbed, whatever, right? Before the world gets in and tell you, no, this is not possible, this is not going to work out, you know, you don't have the money to do this, blah, 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 blah. So that's what I mean. This is all connected to this new moon in Sagittarius. Don't allow the world to create your story for 2026, because we are in a very, very interesting times where literally everything is possible. We just don't believe it. You know, we stop believing in miracles because everything that's magic and miracle and wonder has been trivialized and like, oh, that's just the woo-woo, that's just random, that's just coincidence, that's just whatever, accident, right? And that everything that actually is man-made is just like, oh, look at this miracle, you know, now we can, you know, genetically modify everything. Well, that's amazing, isn't it? Right? Stuff like that. But like just the true life in itself, you know, the ability to conceive a life, that's miracle, isn't it? But it's been trivialized. Like, isn't that a miracle now to create kids in a you know in a lab and stuff? That's the miracle, right? But actually, well, it's all miracle. So that's what I mean. There are things that are magic that were being trivialized, and we don't pay attention because we think like, well, yeah, you know, this always been there, hasn't it? Well, not really. Not really, but it's there now and we don't even see it. And then we are made to focus on the things and look for these things, these miracles like lottery tickets or money falling on my head and stuff, which we are like, oh, that would be a miracle, right? So that's what I mean. Like, it's just the whole perception of reality and what is and isn't possible, it all has to change. So yes, going back to the original thought, there are so many opportunities for magical experience waiting to be manifest, but we don't believe it. We don't believe it because each and every single one of us has certain level of limiting beliefs that came from someone else in most cases, right? We just adopted them or being projected onto or programmed with. And now this is the work, right? With the new moon in Sagittarius, it's saying like, well, this is a fresh page over here. We can create a new story going forward for this upcoming 2026 years. You can become whoever you want in that story, but do you believe it, right? With the Mercury square in the nose pointing to the south node ruled by Mercury in Sag. Well, yeah, here is the evidence. This is what you've gone through. This is your lived experience. These are your ancestors. These are your past lives. But can you go beyond that? With the polarity, the North Node in Pisces. Can we all go beyond that? Can we co-create with spirit a different expression, a more meaningful world, a magical world? Because it's been here all along, but we can't see it. Because we were made to focus on things that are not magic. Even though everything is miracle, isn't it? It all is. So, everything is true at the end of the day. It's just what do I wish to focus on in that truth? Because everybody's truth is different. And that's another aspect of Sagittarius, the truth. There is no truth, it's just the universal law, and everything else is a perception of reality, a subjective perception of reality, perspectives. So this is the opportunity with the 28 degree, which is actually a Cancer degree, Sagittarius, Leo Decan, to recreate ourselves and the role we play in this world and the world that we want to play the role in. And with the Mars in Capricorn, which degree is it on? Is it like 3 degrees Capricorn? Mars? Yeah, 3 degrees, perfect. That's the degree of co-creation, collaboration, the Empress in a tarot, creating this new earth, the new world together. So don't allow the world outside of you to tell you what it should be. Allow me to choose my own story. But again, with our mind and all the former identities, do I want to keep repeating the same one, choosing the same one or not? So there are so many layers, but the main focus, of course, is on the squares. So there are a lot of challenges, there are a lot of pressures, obviously with the upcoming holidays and, solstice and everything. And actually, for many people who are following the Free Eye Atlas, that's happening alongside with the new moon in Sagittarius, same day on the 19th. And also it is, yes, well remembered, it's happening on the Galactic Center. The new moon in Sagittarius is happening in conjunction with the Galactic Center. And Pluto is trine in Uranus, right? Out of sign, but still trining. So we can go absolutely beyond, and we will, and we are going beyond. It's just the manifested reality will take some time, but it doesn't have to be the same case for everyone. So once again, don't allow someone else to create your story, not even your ego self. But then, again, the but. How do I trust that invisible aspect of me, the higher self? How do I know I like it? How do I know it's the right thing? And this is the feminine principle, the trust and surrender and the faith and the hope. And that's not easy because it means I'm surrendering the control to something beyond my comprehension, and I'm just trusting that it's gonna work out, and it's gonna be better than just work out. I'm gonna thrive. So yeah, so these are all potential and possibilities, and whatever is your truth, you decide. Or it's better if you decide, because if you don't, somebody else will decide for you. Because as somebody else said in one of the videos, I don't know which it was, we are being programmed all the time. So don't allow the world to program you, program yourself, right? That's more connected to that Mercury square in the node. But in any case, guys, I'm just gonna pull some cards. It's already 44 minutes as I said that, so I think that these are enough of amusings for this new moon in Sag. I think it's, you know, it's good to be left there. So let's see what the cards want to say with regards to this lunation. So new moon in Sagittarius 2025 as the final lunation and the precursor of things yet to come, based on your own choice. What are the cards advising? The Queen of the Moon, what is the message for the new moon in Sagittarius 2025? Is the card that wants to speak out? Oh, okay, we have a flyer. Oops, close, and there was also this one. Okay, so will, that's the jumper, growth. Actually, this card has been kind of on my periphery, and at the bottom we have wisdom. Well, aren't these interesting words put together, right? And we have the 13, this is the 4, the Saturn, right? And look at all these lunations, you know, how far we've come. The things are always in cycle, and there is that infinite universe of possibilities, potentialities, and she's got this golden apple, right? The wisdom, the apple, the wisdom, right? So it's time to grow, right? It's time to grow. The roots are being established. It's interesting that it's around the planet that looks like Neptune. The higher self knows, you know, where the roots are. The roots are meant to be in the spirit. I mean, I have Pisces in the second house, so I know all about that. Well, all about it. There is never all about anything you can know, but yeah, this is how I've been living my life. It doesn't hold a meaning. It's just going to disappear, taken away. So anyway, it's time. You can see she holds this clock. This is a very profound card, and it's the number 5, which is the change, right? And this is actually happening on the 19th, so that's one. So technically you can say it's either the day 4 or it's the day 5, right? Depending where it's going on for you in the world. If it's happening on the 20th, it is a day 5. If it's happening on the 19th, it's the day 4. So foundation that comes through change. The old foundation is breaking. The new foundation will be created from inside out, from the spirit, co-creation with the spirit, because it's time. It's time to become strong in yourself, and that cannot come when we're depending on the external world to make me strong, because things are always changing. You are changing, but if you firmly rooted in yourself, in your own guidance, then it doesn't matter what change happens. The guidance always comes from the place from within. So, you know, impacted with the external weather, you are in the eye of the storm. And the wisdom, having the wisdom to see beyond what is there. Like you can see, well, there is nothing yet, you know, and look how far we've gone, how much we've learned, and still there is nothing. But there is that infinite potential of the universe, the 22, the master number frequency, another 4. We have 2 4s. This is the Sandalphon, you know, like you are not just the child of the earth, you are the child of the universe, but right now you are the visitor, you are here. So let's create together a better world for all, and those yet to come, and those who have been. So it's time to grow beyond the past experience, to reach for the higher horizons, and having the will it into happening, will it into creation. You know, this is kind of like a high priestess. The answer is within. All right, let's see what the sun wants to say. The Queen of the Sun. The Queen of the Sun about this lunation. Some cards wanted to flip. All right, more cards want to flip. Well, we have a beauty and cycles. And at the bottom we have wealth. Excavating the wisdom, again, the wealth, the wisdom for the year of the horse, number 28. Again, this is a 28-degree new moon, leading us to the year number 10, the year of the horse. This year we had the opportunity to excavate the wisdom of the past cycles. Past cycles, become conscious of the unconscious. Everything is becoming illuminated. This is 27, the number 9. So how far we've gone, how much we've learned, you know, like with the Mercury as the ruler of the South Node, squaring the South Node, ruled by Mercury. The South Node is everything that's ever been in manifested form, wanted to grow and expand, and it's going through the continuous process of change and adjustment, because that's life. And there's a beauty in it, even though not all of it looks beautiful. To me, this card looks creepy personally, you know, but the beauty is in the eye of a beholder, right? And this is a 29, which is number 11. That is the unconditional love of the universe. It looks at someone who is a murderer and someone who is a saint and loves it the same way. The universe doesn't polarize, you know, everything is love. It's all part of oneness. It's all one of unity consciousness. So the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So that's why it's up to you and your own inner guidance to decide what is beautiful for you. And it doesn't mean that it has to be the same thing for the next person. Like personally, I don't like spicy food, but I'm in Mexico. Everybody here does. When I was in Bali, same thing. It's a matter of preference. It's again a story. It's a belief. It's Sagittarius. So that which was beautiful before, which might have been world full of gladiators and wars and whatever, burning witches, that was what people wanted to experience at that time, and that was perfectly fine, but it's not the time we're living in now. We are going beyond that experience. We now have the wisdom. We have the wisdom from the past stories, from the past generations, and we're ready to go beyond. We have the will with the Mars in Capricorn to make it happen. And this is the Chariot card, kind of, right? But there is only, well, there are two horses, but there is no white horse, just the brown and the black. And this one actually does have a leash, you know, like not like the Chariot, it's like telepathic. So you have to make it happen, right? With the number 9, you have to close the cycles. You know, it's been illuminated to all of us what doesn't work. You know, where are the blind spots? Where are the weak spots, right? So it's up to us to close these cycles. It's up to us, like in a sense, look, he's still chasing on the, going on the sky, in the sky, the Helios. So that's the god of the sun, right? It's connected to the sun. Like, how is it riding into the sunset, right? Riding into the sunset. That is the opportunity to bring it into the form. The brown horse to me is like earth, right? The black is the unconscious, the white is the conscious, the higher consciousness. The brown is the earth. Bring it to the earth. Look, here, oh yeah. Here is the white horse. Here is the white horse, and it's the divine feminine essence. The white horse, the higher mind, right? The freedom of the soul, which is always free. It is through the divine feminine. The trust and surrender, the flow state, not the pushing, you know, not the control. That can only take us as far. Number 29, that's us as far as we've gone. Yeah, that's got a completely different meaning now. The masculine way, which is very ingrained in this world, in our cultures, right, is the masculine. You know, you have to do something, you have to conquer, you have to, I don't know what, you know, the masculine, the doing, right? But now we're moving into the year 2026, the year number 10, which is about different way of being. Chiron as the key will be in Taurus. That's the feminine sign. Everybody else is going to be in masculine sign, but it's going to be connected to the personal planets which are moving through the masculine and the feminine, and Jupiter until the end of June, so technically until end of first half of the year, will be still in the sign of Cancer, connected to every single lunation. So yeah, here we got it. What do you want to manifest? The beauty in the eye of the beholder, the 29. The master number frequency, taking the responsibility for the creation, because we've gone as far as we could, trying to just rely on our ego, the sun, the low vibration, ego mind, which is useful, but it can only take you that far. It doesn't have a white horse. The white horse is here with the feminine. So having the will and the wisdom to grow. Neptune. Pisces, with the spirit as the guide. Alright, I am going to use the deck which I forgot to use last time, the activation portals, right? Gateway of the Light Activation Oracle. Let's see what portal is opening up for us. This happening on the Galactic Center, right? No kidding. like? Let's see. Okay, what portal is opening up for us on December 19, 20th with the Free Eye Atlas and the new moon in Sagittarius, which is happening on the Galactic Center. Sacred and inner space, sacral chakra, tenderness and sensuality. This is the creation. Not card I would expect, but yeah, you know, activations of a creation, sacral chakra through sexuality, sensuality, reconnection with oneself. Sacral chakra is a water, so again, is the feminine. It's connected to the feminine. And then temple of truth. Here is the Sagittarius. So I understand it's the water, it's the emotion, is your own intuition and inner guidance that tells you the truth, and that will take you beyond. This is like the portals, the gates that are in Bali. They have these ones, the gates to heaven. Throat chakra of authenticity and self-expression. Only you know how you feel. Nobody can tell you, and that then helps you to understand and figure out what is your truth, and then spoken, it will manifest, right? That's why we have to be very wary about what we say and how we talk to ourselves. It's even more important, the inner dialogue. Okay, so let's see the sacred inner space. These are cards that I don't believe I pulled before. So, okay. So this is about the sacral chakra, governed by water, helps us to move with flow of life in order to express our most authentic self. Here we go. Yeah, everything from sexuality to our capacity to express the tender, more sacred parts of ourselves connected to this chakra. These cards transport us to this sacred inner space. It shows an inner temple with flowing water. And lots of soft colors coming from a blooming lotus. This encourages us to see that our sacred parts are beautiful energetic gateways through which we can express and manifest pure life force. Your message: you are being guided to the gateway of your sacred self. This is an opportunity to recognize that the more tender and vulnerable aspects of your being hold keys to great power. Honor the sacred within. Reclaim any parts of yourself that you have disconnected from or abandoned. If you want to experience more love and belonging, look within. There is a huge lesson in finding love within yourself. That's the Chiron in Taurus, right? Self-love. Realize that false narratives have been floating around your energetic field, stories that have discouraged you from expressing yourself. You may even have been lied to and told you aren't beautiful. This card is here to remind you that you are beautiful. Beauty in the eye of the beholder, hiding behind the mask of the societal expectations. This card is here to remind you that you are beautiful, and more importantly, you can create beauty in the world. Recognize that you hold the power of the universe within, and then you'll find your flow. Yeah, it's coming from the inside. It's just, it doesn't matter which way you look at it. All the cards are gonna take you to the same place, which is yourself. Okay, let's see about this Temple of Truth, throat chakra. This card transports us to the Temple of Truth, the inner energetic gateways that supports our truest form of expression. The image shows that this is a bright, airy, open space with flowing water, sacral and throat, right? This it represents the emotions that run through us. Emotions are powerful messengers, and if you don't attend to what needs to come out or through us, they build up, and before we know it, we're overwhelmed by them. Your message: when you are brought to this space, you are being reminded to the importance of your identity and your self-expression in this lifetime. Acknowledging who you are, who you have been, and who you are becoming is so important for the unfoldment of your path. There's an old story that the truth hurts. This gateway reminds you that in fact, truth heals. The truth is your truth, and it's important for you to honor it with every facet of your being. This isn't the first incarnation in which you have felt the importance of honesty and authenticity, but it may be the first in which you have the full freedom of expression. This gateway coming to you today is a message that there is something buried deep inside you that you haven't expressed, and this is causing energetic blockages. on your ever unfolding path. It is a time to love yourself enough to honor the feelings that are rising up in you, for they are divine guidance that will bring you into greater alignment. So we are the sacral, feeling what you need to feel, allowing the water to flow to help you to create the expression that needed to be expressed, and then the words spoken authentically and honestly that create what needs to be experienced by your soul. Not good or bad, it's just what it is, you know, the truth. The truth is different for everyone, but why suppress your truth for somebody else's truth? And this is a new moon in Sagittarius, the truth. What is your truth? What do you want it to be? Just because somebody said something, or even I believe something, or I've been saying this to myself, do I want this to be my truth going forward? Because truth is mutable. It's Sagittarius. It is not a universal law. All right, and the final oracle deck I want to consult is this Cosmic Crossroads from Amanda Lynn Eisling. Let's see, Cosmic Crossroads with the Sagittarius. Where is the next beginning? Where is the next adventure taking us to a new beginning? And look at all that water. And the full moon in Sagittarius, that's gonna be, I believe, May 31st when I looked, I think it was. So everybody already in a new sign. Chiron not yet in a sign of Taurus, still in a sign of Aries on the final degrees, but yeah, Saturn, Neptune, Uranus back in the signs. So the beginning, creation of a new beginning through connection with yourself, the water, your inner self, the moon, your inner world. And look, it's like she's under the star, right? Cosmos, connection with the cosmos, with our cosmic origin. You are not who you were told you are. And yet, playtime, another 29. How are we gonna figure it out again? The water and butterfly. Through playtime, you're gonna find the new beginning, different from the one you experience. A new beginning that is true to you through more play. You know, and the white wolf, you know, like if you have to on your own, you know, the wolf can be part of the pack, but it can only be on their own. They can be the alpha, they can be the sigma, right? Being your own leader, the white wolf, allowing your conscious mind, well, or higher conscious mind, to lead you to the transformation that allows you to enjoy life more fully, the 29. The 11, right? Just like in this guy, more beauty and more play. More beauty and more play. Here we go. The emotions, the feelings. Jupiter in Cancer, amplifying everything. So we cannot hide, we cannot pretend it's not there. And how is our own truth, our limiting belief system, how much we've been hurting ourselves, keeping locked in a box of our own restrictions. Yeah, so it's not the world that's restricting you, it's your belief about the world that is restricting you, restricting me, restricting all of us. So it's time to write a new story. Don't bother about rewriting the old one, just write a new one. Okay, and Temperance at the bottom, perfect, which is the Sagittarius card, Temperance. Let's see if it comes out again. Okay, what is the guidance? Jumper, world. Yeah, I was feeling this card very strongly because we are culminating a year. This is the final lunation for 2025. Again, with all the cards and all the messages that came through. What have we learned? We already know, you know, the growth, the wisdom. We already know. We don't have to repeat the same things again. We've graduated. And this is like a wheel, right? It's the circle, it's like the wheel of fortune. That's where we're going. This is the 21, number 3, because a new creation is waiting to be manifest through play, through joy, through beauty, through connection. And then at the bottom is Strength and the Emperor, perfect. And the Hermit, very good. We end in the year of Hermit, you know, throughout this year. We had the opportunity to attune to the star within, the future version of yourself, through experience a lot of the things from the past, our past, ancestor past, whoever's past, you know, just like I said, like I started this video with so much unresolved coming up for resolution. Is it all mine? No. but it's on my doorstep, it's in my face, right? Can't ignore it no more. So with the Virgo, you know, the learning and adjusting, organizing, right? Not getting lost in the perfection and detail, seeing that, okay, what is the potential that can be birthed with this? Where else can we go with that? What is my inner guidance telling me, even if from nothing else, from the contrast to this situation? And then deciding, I am the Mars in Capricorn, I am the conscious creator of reality, and that's what I'm going to manifest. Yes, I need to have the strength to manifest it, you know, the strength to be guided by my higher self, the strength to be guided by someone I can't even see, is the ghost, right? Like this one, yeah? The horse, your freedom, is being guided by the woman, you know, not necessarily female, but the divine feminine, which is the trust and surrender, the flow, you know, not pushing, not forcing, because we've gone as far as we can go with that. That's it, you know, that's it. We can't go any further, you know, it's still got a place. It doesn't mean we're just gonna be sitting here all day, inspired action and all that. So having the strength and the courage to know which one's which, when do I need to tune in and be guided from within, and where do I need to take action? I mean, this is the Leo card, right? Connected to the sun. What am I creating, you know? What am I creating? And being the emperor, having the will, right? The will to be the emperor, to create. Like, no, I'm the creator of my universe, you know? Like, I am no longer going to be creating your universe for you. Like, no, this is passé. We've already graduated. Hey, this is the Saturn card. We already graduated, you know. I already learned from the past. South Node in Virgo, squares by Mercury. This is the potential for the future. I'm gonna follow from within, from inside out. Is there another card? Lovers. Yes, it's a choice. What choice you're gonna take? To create the new earth of your own choosing, right? It's up to you, based on your values and your relationship to yourself, your self-love. And look at that orange, sacral chakra. How does it feel? Only you know. So choose for yourself. Don't allow someone else to choose from you, because then you might encounter the devil and be stuck in a situation which you say, I don't like this, I didn't choose this. But then a new choice can be made, and now we are approaching a new moon, where you can conceive and decide, what choice do I want to make, right? Because this old story doesn't have to keep repeating itself. Like, we obviously graduated. It's an opportunity for me to express my desire, just like I said, like I shared with you. I have a desire what I would like to experience in 2026. Now, yeah, when I get into my head and go like, well, will I have money? What about this? What about this person? What about that person? What's going to happen? How am I going to get there? Blah, blah, blah. Then, yeah, then you go just like, oh, you know what? Just give up. Just forget about it. You know, just forget about it. No, don't forget about it. Don't forget about your dreams. Don't forget about your dreams. There is a new beginning. Just follow your own sigma. You are not here to follow someone else. You're here to go through your own process of transformation and become your own leader, become your own creator, right? All right, guys, 1 hour and 7 minutes. Let's leave it at this. So here we go. This is my very likely last lunation video for 2025 in this new shape and form. And yeah, like I said, there are a few ideas flowing. So Aaron and I will share some of those in the upcoming videos. Like I said, stay tuned for my Christmas offerings and our last 2 videos with Aaron for 2025, the closing of 2025, and our musings for 2026, not prediction, just musings. And yeah, let's see where we go with all of that and what else universe has in store for us. But remember, choose for yourself. What is your truth? What is your next story? So with that, have a wonderful week ahead, and I'll speak to you again in the next video. Bye everyone.